Did you say it's 8 a.m. in Vermont?
No, that was, I had a recording going
Oh,
there. Yeah, sorry about that. Waking you up.
Completely disoriented.
Everybody just logged off.
so we're now live on YouTube. And in case anyone wants to share the YouTube link, I will put it in the chat. We're happy to have as many people as possible connecting with us. Welcome, Ulysses. Welcome, Eric. And welcome back, Susan. And Rosvita. Karibu sana.
Asante sana, Asante. Thank you so much for having us. Could you please share the YouTube channel? I know there's some people in Kenya who want to have the YouTube channel to watch.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome, Yamongo and Dora. And Nightingale, we're at the hour, so I'll pass it to you to decide when we start and to welcome your team of fellow presenters. And welcome Liz and Maria.
Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. So my name is Nightingale Wakigera, and I am very glad to have you guys here today as we have this discussion about children and the connection between children's health and the health of the planet. So our discussion today is specifically about children and planetary health, collaboratively connecting and uniting for healthy children and a healthy planet. And we're excited to also have very, very special guests in this meeting today. And one of them is Molly. I also have a few guests on my end that will also grace us with something special. So I do hope that you can just sit back and enjoy as they come in and share with us. So I will mute myself first, move things around as I make space for some of the guests on my side.
And as she's getting set up, welcome to the new friends who have connected, Vedast, Leanne, Lisa, and Iola. And it looks like a fellow Frencham, Linda's on her way, Richard.
Yeah, I drag her just about everywhere I go.
All right, so we are going to get started. And I would like to invite Molly to come in first and say something small about herself. Molly, so good to see you. Hi, Molly.
Hi.
I'm so happy to see you. And you see your friends on this side?
Yeah.
Do you guys want to say hi to Molly? Say hi, Molly.
Hi. Hi. Hi.
Okay, Molly, do you want to tell us something real quick about, well, I already kind of gave away your name, but welcome and share with us a little bit.
2. Yeah, you're 2. I'm 2 years old.
I'm 2 years old.
Thank you, Molly. And I will also have these friends over here also say something small about themselves. Thank you. All right.
I like your cold hands.
Thank you, baby. Okay, Zaria.
My name is Azaria Moody, and I am 9 years old.
My name is Ezekiel Moody, and I am 7 years old. My name is Bethel Moody, and I am 3 years old.
My name is Fathili Utman, and I am 9 years old.
My name is Rahema Utman, and I'm 6 years old.
Okay, good. So, all right. Now, Molly, I know you're on the other side, but we're with you in our hearts. And now we will start singing the song. Okay, guys.
The earth is our mother, just turning around, with the trees in the forest, roots underground. Our Father above us, whose sigh is the wind, paint us a rainbow without any end. As the river runs freely, the mountain does rise. Let me touch with my fingers, see with my eyes. In the hearts of the children, a pure love still grows. Like a bright star in heaven that lights our way home. Like the flower that shatters the stone. Sparrows find freedom, beholding the sun. In the infinite beauty, we're all joined as one. I reach out before me and look to the sky. Did I hear someone whisper? Did something pass by? As the river runs freely, the mountain does rise. Let me touch with my finger, see with my eyes.
It's over.
Of the children, pure love still grows.
Over.
Star in heaven that lights our way home, like the flower that shattered the stone.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Okay.
You're welcome.
You did a great job. Does anybody want to say something before you go? Or is that it?
Almost the whole song I was staring at that.
Okay, that's helpful, right? Molly, thank you so much for sharing your time and sharing your space with us and sharing your beautiful voice too. And Erin, thank you too. I do have, so to the two people on this side that are parents.
Suck the coldness out of you.
Yeah, but hang on, let me say something.
Then I
small.
can be welcome.
So we have Christy Moody on this end. She's the mother of 3 of the children who shared with us. And the other 2 children are Nathan's and my children. So thank you so much for sharing. Now, at this moment, we still have a little time. As we know, we're talking about the connection between child health and planetary health. And before we invite the panelists, just wondering if anybody within the sorry, I got muted. If there's a child hearing us from the other end, from where we have the guests, I would like to give you a moment to say something, or even a parent to say something short, or even a loved one, or somebody who cares about children to say like just a few words that you would like to share in this space that's dedicated to the children sharing.
Well, I could say something.
Please
Hi,
take the
everybody.
mic.
My name is Stephanie, and I'm in Toronto, Canada. And first of all, I'm a parent of 3 young adults. I'm informed so much by that. I'm informed from my own life. I've been a holistic educator most of my life. I have a degree in play and leisure studies from the University of Ottawa. And right now I'm completing my doctorate on essentially talking to parents about their experience with their children who have language-based learning difficulties. And the first thing I have to say about kids is, you know, we could cross, especially with the systemic issue globally regarding hatred and evil, and I'm right, you're wrong, equity issues on all levels, and also equity issues regarding education, which is my background, and calling something, saying one person's strength doesn't matter. Only these strengths matter. I believe in multiliteracies, and I believe that song and sport and play could cross the borders of difference. You don't even need to know language where a person is from. You throw out a ball, or you're outside playing amongst the trees and hearing the birds. Whatever, you don't even, you get kids the most expensive toys and they play with the box. So, we know now in this time, scientifically, because the prior week there's been an international, the best presenters in the world on permaculture and food sustenance. So we know now that this is important, not just so that we have healthy food, but we know that we must put our skin and our feet on the ground and touch the trees and all of that we intuitively knew as children and lost. So hear it. I love the kids singing and playing outside and breathing fresh air and being joyful. And that's what I think my priority as a researcher, educator. I focus on systemic wellness of children in the community and the planet, and it's all the same. We're one ecology, and keep singing, and I love the singing and I love the dancing, and we can learn something from you guys. Sorry so long, but that's who I am, and you guys are great, so happy to sing with you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for sharing with us. And you just got a shout out by a 6-year-old who liked that. So I will pass the mic on now to Mary, who will share a little bit with us. Or I think pass the mic to Nathan, and then you can pass it on.
Thank you, Nightingale. Thank you, Stephanie. And thank you, everyone. Feel welcome. We have just had a song by the children to welcome us, to ground us, to help us, to lead us and guide us. So we're going to go into the presentations by the 5 panelists, and then we'll give everyone a chance to share some more, and also go into breakout rooms. And I'm just going to share my screen and talk about what our goals are for our time together. And we want to start with the feeling that we want to embody the notions of community that Stephanie just summarized so effectively. And with this, I want to talk about a quote from Maya Angelou, an American writer. And she said that she learns that people will forget what you say, and people will forget what you do, but people never forget the way that you make them feel. And so we welcome everyone into this community space to share so that we can grow together. And the information that we're presenting, we hope that it is figuratively like a seed that is planted and that can showcase how much common ground that we have and enable us to amplify and expand our collective advocacy together. It's not always easy to connect with people in other time zones or from other generations or other backgrounds, but these are our core values. This is what has been a feature of our CHIP team since the beginning, and through thick and thin, that is what we are going to remain connected across these divisions. So we also want it to be interactive and bidirectional. And so in the beginning, we'll be a little bit less interactive, but if you stick with us, we'll definitely give you a chance to share what you're doing and to help us to know where we go from here and how we can remain connected. We also have art and music that are intermixed because these are really effective ways for us to communicate with each other and to connect. And so with that, I'm going to follow the lead of the children and do a little bit of singing from my side. It's Love Lifts Us Up Where We Belong. Love lifts us up where we belong, where the eagles fly on the mountains high. So the message there is pretty clear. That love lifts us up where we belong. And that's what we want, is to embody the love together. So to begin with, we want to honor the earth, our fellow creatures in the web of life, and all of our relations, and specifically our ancestors who did so much to make it possible for us to have the special privilege of living and connecting and loving. So also, whenever we talk about what true child health is and true planetary health is, we have beyond encyclopedic knowledge and wisdom that is present, especially in so many of the indigenous cultures that have never thought, never believed that humans are separate from the natural world. And that is what we plan to extensively draw from as much as we talk about seeds and needing to chart a new course that heals the broken relationships. We do that from a position of groundedness and very much understanding who we are, where we came from, and that we are all connected as both a human family and a community of life. So the roots of this complex and special connection, specifically between children and the planet, are genuinely deep and ancient. And we are, in fact, united with the land and all of our relations in the community of life. So I want to briefly give an overview about where our CHIP project, our CHIP team, our CHIP family came together. It's less than a year ago, in July of 2020. And there's Clinicians for Planetary Health group that I'm connected to, and I'm also connected to the International Society of Child Health and Social Pediatrics. And we thought that linking those two together, focused on planetary health and child health, would be a great collaboration opportunity. And that evolved into a team of 7, 5 of who are together with us today. Mary and Sue, Nightingale, myself, and Aaron. And we also have 2 from ISOP who aren't together with us, but Jeff Goldhagen and Eva Goldhagen. So we met on a weekly basis for several months. And initially we thought that we would call our project Planetary Pediatrics. But we realized that as great as pediatrics is, it does not speak to everyone within the child health community. And so we thought that talking about child health would actually enable us to be more clear about who we are and who we plan to reach out to. And that is actually something which is fundamental to this community, that we anticipate and prioritize progressive expansion to become more inclusive, so that at the planetary scale, that's a regular challenge for us to think about how much we have an opportunity to connect with people from different parts of the world, different generation, different disciplinary backgrounds. And so child health is also not meant in a narrow sense. We also are interested in, as our title for today's presentation emphasizes, anyone who's interested in both children and planetary health. This is the space that we hope to build out, and not just as our specific CHIP team, but also as a planetary community of people who care about children and care for the Earth. So we also recognize that it's absolutely essential to have sustained involvement of children, that we maintain the diversity of backgrounds, and ultimately that we are perpetually a work in progress. So we really appreciate the opportunity to connect with you today and to learn and grow together. So we just want to briefly share about our vision and mission, core values. And so with that, Nightingale, I don't know if Rehema and Fathili are around, but we made it so that our vision is simple and singable. And so, hey, I'm not able to see Nightingale if you're together with Rehema, but are you there?
I had gone to see if I can retrieve them. So let me, Rehema is on her way here.
Okay, so we'll try and pause a little bit about the first two and have that be an appetizer. Hopefully in a minute or two, we'll jump back. But our core values, we have 7. And in terms of the number that we chose, 7 is significant in a lot of senses, both for time, the number of weeks, and according to some, there are 7 continents on planet Earth. But we have the 7 that can be summarized with C, B, U, D, L, T, R. And at least for our family, that's easy to remember because we have a dog named Buddy. And so we can just say, see Bud later or see Buddy later. And if you're interested in trying to remember and think about our CHIP team, that's maybe helpful to you as well. So C stands for community, and we put that first because that's really one of our top priorities, is to hold ourselves to the standard of saying, are we a community? Are we really welcoming? And is this a space where at the planetary scale, everyone feels welcome? The second one is biophilia, and that means love of life. And we don't mean just human life, we mean non-human life as well. U stands for unity. And really, Stephanie, you kicked us off well, talking about how actually to be healthy and well and to understand the authenticity of life and where we came from, unity is not a minor idea. It's fundamental to what we need to actually be healthy and to heal. Then we have diversity, talking about not only biodiversity, but also cultural diversity and linguistic diversity. And with that idea, directly connecting to the translation, where we want what we talk about in CHIP to be directly informed by people's lived experiences in the beautiful languages from all over the world. We also have love, and then roots that we talked about a little bit ago. So Nightingale, is Rehema there? Is she able to share our vision in a song?
Can you share?
Should I start, Rehema? We can sing it together. Healthy children and a healthy planet
For
for all. One more time.
healthy children and a healthy planet for all.
Thank you, Rehema. So that's really what we're working towards as that vision, both short term and long term. We have so much opportunity to work towards that. And we can summarize that using letters, kind of like a math equation. HC plus HP leads to 4A. So is Fathili there, Knight, for the mission?
Yes,
All right, Tom, you want to do it together or you got it?
I think I got it.
Great.
Our mission is to collaboratively connect with care for children with care for the earth.
One more time.
Our mission is to collaboratively connect care for children with care for the earth.
Thank you, Tom.
Uh-huh.
I really appreciate that, Rehema and Fathili. You did amazing. So the mission is also kind of like a math equation. 2CC leads to C4C plus C4E. And lastly, who we currently are, we're a planetary team of volunteers, and we're actively meeting, planning, and strategizing about ways that we can stay together and have a sustained positive impact for both children and the planet. So with that, I will pause and welcome Mary to share her presentation. Thank you again, everyone.
And if you'll just give me a second, I will share my screen. Hopefully you can see it. Nathan, I'm not seeing it pull up. It's looking like I can share my screen, but then when I do, it does. Oh, here we are. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Thumbs up, yes?
Yep.
Okay, terrific. And let me just get rid of my little bar here so that I can move my screen things up here and open it up for you. All right, there we go. And I'm going to, I think, minimize. Here we go. All right. Well, I bring you greetings from Minneapolis, Minnesota in the United States. And for those of you unfamiliar with all of the areas of the United States, it's kind of in that northern central region of our country. And I'm just so happy to have so many of you on this call and just to have a few minutes to share with you just some thoughts I have about advocating for child and planetary health. I approach my work in this area, in this space, kind of from both my personal perspective and also my professional perspective. And from a personal side, I'm a wife, a mother of 2 grown daughters, but also a grandmother of 2 little toddler granddaughters and a soon-to-be-born baby boy grandson. And so from the personal perspective, I feel passionately that we are responsible for the world that we need to help our children create. And I want them to have a future in a healthy and a sustainable planet. And I'm greatly concerned about that. I also come to this work from the perspective of my professional side. For over 35 years, I cared for children, provided direct primary care as a pediatric nurse practitioner. And now I serve as a clinical professor in the School of Nursing at the University of Minnesota. And I work in our doctoral programs that are preparing the advanced practice nurses like nurse practitioners and nurse midwives and nurse leaders, and preparing them for future advanced practice. And in that space, my expertise is health policy. So that's why I want to talk a little bit about advocacy today. I have had my career grounded in nursing all of my career. And in the paradigm of nursing, we often talk about 4 key interrelated concepts that are always in constant interaction with each other. And you can see them on the slide. The first one is person, and that can be person, and that can also mean individual, family, or community. And then environment, health, and nursing. And as a nurse and a nurse practitioner, I have always approached patients in the care that I give from the context that in nursing, we believe that people have great powers to heal themselves, but we have to put them in the best possible environment to do so. And we always see patients within that context of environment. And we know what a role that plays in terms of people's health, the environments in which they live and work and love and play and learn. And so for me, I really resonate with the idea that there is an inextricable link between child health and planetary health, that children are greatly reliant on the environment for their survival, but the environment is also greatly reliant on how we teach children to be good stewards of the land. And I also believe that we're seeing more and more research now that really is telling us that if we have adults and children in nature, that they will build a connectedness to nature and a relationship with nature that causes them, that in turn, to become really good stewards of the land, to exhibit pro-environmental behaviors, and to also be really good at conservation of the earth and its resources. And I know that with that inextricable link between child and planetary health, I know that children just simply cannot grow and cannot develop and cannot become their best potential of themselves unless they can breathe clean air and drink clean water and eat clean and nutritious food and thrive in a clean environment and reap the many, many physical and mental health benefits from spending time in nature. And I really appreciate the work that has been done by some of the researchers looking at this connection between children and nature, such as Alcock and his colleagues in England, and Dornoff and colleagues in Germany and Brazil, really looking at this important relationship between children and nature needing children for survival as well. One of the messages I want to talk a bit about today is that, I have a role in educating health professionals, but I know some of you on the call may be in that role of educating teachers and others who care for children and for health and for the planet. And I really believe that those of us educating future professionals who are going to care for our children need to really be knowledgeable, not only about the existential threats that children face because of what we're doing to our planet, but they need to really understand that they are going to play a critical role in being expert people in terms of advocacy for the health and the planet. And we really need to, I think, embody that in our future professionals. Those who care for children need to be highly informed about, what are the health effects of polluted air and polluted water for pregnant women, on infants, on young children. How will environmental toxins, how will we get a handle on that and prevent poisoning of our children? How will we try to reverse the forward progression of climate change and the forced migration that's going to come with that, and the harm that it'll cause children? And I think among the things that I really want to impart to my students is the need to really examine environmental injustices and environmental racism that is causing horrific harm to the children of our world. So I believe that that's an important role that educators of future professionals play. I also want to impart on them an appreciation for the fact that we need to be listening to the voices of children and allow them a voice when policies are being drafted for our environment that affect them and affect their future. So I've just put a few steps on the screen just for some food for thought as far as things that health professional schools can do. And I would imagine this would apply to many of you who are maybe teaching the future teachers of the world, or the future holistic health clinicians. But I do think we need to be adding sound curricula about existential health threats to the planet caused by pollution and toxins. I also really think that we need to teach our professionals of the future how to be good, strong advocates. They need to understand where and how policy about the environment is drafted and how that impacts the laws in our countries. And we need to teach them how to be articulate advocates, how to have a good visit that's effective with a legislator or a governmental official about environmental policy. I also think we need to be teaching our professionals of tomorrow about dissemination skills, and not only just how to write articles for their own professional journals, but I think how to step out of that and become really effective in translating important child and planetary health information that can be translated in a way that it's very understandable to lay people, to young children, to the governmental people that we need to influence to change environmental policy. And then I also think that our colleges and universities need to also demonstrate their own deep commitment to planetary health. And to that end, I'm really proud at the University of Minnesota School of Nursing, our dean has appointed a director of planetary health for our School of Nursing. And it's Dr. Teddy Potter. I think some of you may be familiar with Teddy and all of her work in this environmental and planetary health space. So lastly, with a little bit of time I have left, I just want to put in a plug that I'm really excited to announce an opportunity for dissemination of manuscripts focused on child and planetary health. The Journal of Pediatric Healthcare is going to be publishing a special edition, and we hope to have it published in January, February of 2022. And the title of the special edition is Planetary Health, Environmental Justice, and Child Health. And so we're accepting manuscripts for peer review regarding the health effects for infants, children, and teens of water and air pollution, exposure to toxins, food contamination, climate change, agricultural practices and pesticides that's changing the nutritional value in our foods. Also, we're interested if anyone would like to do an article on the effects of children in nature and all that we know about that now. The submission deadline is coming up very soon, 2 days from now. However, I do think that my co-guest editor and I probably will have a little bit of wiggle space if someone already is sort of thinking about something they want to write, or you've got an article partly drafted. I think we might be able to squeeze out another week or two if we hear from you and know that you have something interesting coming in for peer review. So if you're at all interested, I put my email on the screen there, chesney009@umn.edu. Shoot an email to me, let me know. But I really want to invite you to be part of this inaugural issue of putting this issue out there in front of health professionals. And with that, I thank you so much for your time. I look forward to our conversations in the breakout rooms. And I'd like to go ahead and pass the baton to my friend and colleague, Nightingale.
Thank you so much, Mary, for sharing about all those important issues about our connection to children and the natural space. So, like I had shared, my name is Nightingale, and I'm a registered nurse following Mary's footsteps. And I'm also a student studying One Health at this point, but most especially, I am a mother. And that's, I think, the role that's really guiding me a lot right now, together with the other roles. So when I look back and think about my life, and so I'm going to share from that perspective a lot of a mother. When I look back a lot at my life, I think about, I try to think about when I started this thought or these thoughts about being a climate steward. And I do remember as a child and also as an adult being quite responsible in the ways that I knew at that time. I was born and raised in Kenya by the Rift Valley, and there is a lot of beauty there. There are some struggles, but most especially there's a lot of connection to nature that is gradually ebbing away just because of how life is now, and that we are more and more caring about development and with a question mark. So when I had my first child and then the second child is when I thought deeper about what it really means to be a steward of the environment, why I'm doing that. And so I own that space that it didn't really dawn on me as much as it has now. And so I do give thanks to those children who made it possible for me to see a little bit more clearly. And now when I think about it, I think about the values. And I know we have talked about values a lot, looking at family traditions, looking at the rituals that we set as families. When we think about having fun moments for those who do celebrations, sometimes we celebrate with balloons. It's it's just going to the very simple, but and thinking about, instead of buying a balloon, could we figure out where we could plant a tree and celebrate that way? It's changing, or really not changing, but shifting our values so that they align with the great care that we have. Because if we're choosing to have future generations, then it's good for us to take that step and think about, where are these future generations going to live, and how is that space going to be? And I know at the beginning of this session, we had a guest share about the importance of playing outside. And this, I think we all know, we all have passed through that stage of being able to play outside. And if you look back, and if you're a child, you already can see this, there's so much connection to that outside space. You can play with sticks, and you can play around trees, and you can even just interact with the soil. And the bugs then are not scary, because you can appreciate them from a distance if you don't want to touch them. And so it begins with simple questions, like my 6-year-old likes to say when we walk around, and she talks about, Mama, can I please pick up these? She actually goes to pick up the plastics or the trash on the road, and I have to sometimes stop her, because I do know a little bit more about the dangers of just picking up anything you find along the street when you don't protect yourself. But it is us continuing with those values that the children already have for the environment, because I do think that they already have them in us, and in a lot of ways, we uproot them out of the children. But for those that are not already there, it is our role as the adults in our society, as the elders in our society, to share these values with the children. So like I shared, I am from Kenya, which also makes me African. And I do want to give thanks to Wangari Maathai. She was a social, political, and environmental activist. And I have learned and continue to learn a lot from her. And just to touch a little bit on the issue of values, she had a daughter, and her name is Wanjira, and she was one of the key speakers. She's one of the key speakers in this conference now. So just wanting to give a small example that, because Wangari instilled those values in her daughter, she could have chosen any other way to walk, but she chose to continue walking in taking care of the environment that has continued to sustain her and her people. I have had the fortune of living my life in both Kenya and Liberia. And what I have learned from the children that I have interacted with in those spaces is just how important it is. And when we look at the statistics, we see that the human population is continuing to increase. But if we think about the girl child and all children, without looking at gender, we know that if we give these children an opportunity to get some education, to understand the depths of why we care about some of these issues, to continue to understand the science behind the reasons that are given, then these children will continue to study. And when we talk about population, they will have children later in life and reduce the chances of having an overpopulation, because that's also another issue that we're looking at. And gradually we can have societal change. We also, talking from my African roots, I also want to say that there are a lot of mistakes that have been made by the Global North. And it is our role, even as the Global North takes this responsibility of not continuing to make the mistakes they've made in the past, of overusing the resources that the earth provides for us. It is also our role in the Global South to decide to not follow those footsteps, but instead to find other ways and to ask questions and sometimes to say no. I remember that when you love a place, you love it so much, or you even love a person, you will care enough for that person and for that space, such that you will protect it for those who come into the future. And as we love our children, so must we love other life forms, because we are all interconnected. So then as a nurse, I can only add, I don't have much to add because Mary really touched on a lot. And all I can say is that education is really key for me as a nurse, us as nurses, and as educators and as healthcare providers as well. And so in the clinical setting, it is for us to continue asking ourselves those questions of, as I take care of as I take care of this patient, whether it's an adult or a child, am I doing it in a holistic way? And so we continue to ask even bigger questions of how are our hospitals constructed? I know I am a clinician and I have nothing to do with architecture, but sometimes it's where I think about my patient, and I also think about what is best for my patient and for myself for when I will be a patient. And then again, the advocacy question, like Mary mentioned, is that we always have to raise these issues. We cannot be quiet about issues that we care about. And so as a nurse, I continue to be my patient's advocate at all times. So to conclude, I would like to share a small poem by Khalil Gibran, and it is on children. And it just talks about, well, let me share it. And a woman who held a babe against her bosom said, "Speak to us of children." And he said, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts."
Help me unbutton this.
Hang on. "You may house their bodies, but not their souls." Okay, just a second. All right, there you go. Excuse me. "For their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children, as living arrows, are sent forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness, for even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable." So this is what we must do for our children. And we know that we are just vessels. And we let them live and support them as much as we can. Thank you.
So I believe I'm up next. Is that right, Nathan? Good. Nightingale, you couldn't have provided me a better introduction for what I want to present. That poem by Gibran is just perfect. It's one that my wife and I have read years ago and recall regularly. I'll share my screen here and get this started. It looks like the sound's on. And what I want to cover here is, I don't know if you can see it. It's covered a little bit on my screen because of the people down the side, but we have a picture. I wonder if there's a way. Do you see a picture of a little boy at the side?
Yeah.
And so one thing that can be done is you can, I think, replace your screen of viewers if you want. I've put Owen a little bit misty there because we tend not to think of kids as vividly as we should be thinking of them. And you see that he has on his back there a little panda, which implies that he's going to be a nurturer of life on Earth. And so just to keep that there, that the kids are watching us, let's never forget them, because it's their future and we have a real mess to tidy up for them. I'm going to be looking at things from 4 different aspects here. What is the human? That question that comes right to the core of what do we want to be doing with our kids, the free learner, trusting young people, and then I'll say something about the Youth Rights Day and the formation of an umbrella. Now this is supposed to go forward more. In groups that I've been involved with lately, the well-being of children, mental health, all of that comes up regularly. And a lot of it goes to the idea that well-being is equal to autonomy, that if you don't have control over your life, you're going to feel stressed. And in fact, there's research that shows that the one of the biggest stressors in life is a lack of control over what you're doing. Daniel Pink wrote the book Drive, which is basically about autonomy. And one of the things that he says in there is that the current age we're in doesn't need better management. It calls for a renaissance in self-direction. And so that whole idea of self-direction and autonomy leading to what humanity is, and humanity being well-being if it's well nurtured. I have power at the top here being exploded because it's the use of power that spoils relationships and prevents people from becoming who they want to be and would naturally be. And Zach Stein is somebody who's come to our attention recently. He published in 2018 a book called, what is it called now? I'm forgetting. Education in a Time Between Worlds. And he makes the case that we're in a time between worlds right now. I'd like you to hear what he has to say. We'll hope this comes through well. I taught computers for about 30 years and I'm still technologically challenged. You're not hearing that, I gather, eh? Can anybody help me on that?
Yeah, we're not hearing the sound.
Not hearing it. I'm going to just stop the share for a moment and see if I can bring it back up. I thought I had it figured out, but not the case. So I have share sound on, and I'll go right to the video itself and do the share and restart it.
The agricultural metaphor works great, right?
Are we hearing it now?
The agricultural metaphor works great, right? Like think of massive agribusiness where they mass standardize and homogenize crops, right? So they don't make the thing grow. Like nature's still making it grow, but they do such weird stuff around it that it all grows basically identically, right? And we all know that monocultures are incredibly susceptible to blight, right? Which is to say, like, that's why we use pesticides and stuff, because it's not all identical plants, all in the same rows, all looking exactly the same. And so, like, permacultural models of agriculture are extremely different. And so the analogy there is the same. Like, we need to actually move into something that looks like we're going backwards, but in fact, we're going forwards, right? With the educational thinking. And so something like a permacultural form of education, which basically uses the naturally occurring symbioses and interferes as little as possible with the natural dynamism of the growth that's there. That's the model, that something like that. So, and what that entails is actually more respect for what is given by nature in the plant, and less hubris about the human potential for real design and power over that process, right?
So, are you hearing me again?
Yes, Richard.
Good.
Can you?
And, oh, we got a problem here. Can never practice enough. And so moving on from there, that metaphor that Zach used, if you think of kids being in rows taught to perform certain ways, it's like putting fertilizer on them, trying to get the perfect kids all growing up the same to serve this capitalist structure that we have. And where you have permaculture seeming like you're going backwards, we also have Peter Gray talking about the natural born learner, which would, to a lot of people, seem like you're going backwards. He's written the book Free to Learn. One of the people that works with myself and others on the call here with Unschooling School is Carl Rust, and he's written this book, Get Out of the Way and Let Kids Learn. And I want to give you a taste of Peter Gray too. He's one of the big voices for natural learning.
Thank
Sound
you.
good?
What a pleasure to be here. What a great topic, the end of school. Yay. I'm an evolutionary psychologist, and what that means is that I'm interested in human nature. I'm interested in how that nature came about by biological evolution, by natural selection. I'm particularly interested in the nature of human children, and most particularly in that aspect, those aspects of children's nature that lead them to become educated. So the big idea that I'm here to talk about is this, that children are biologically designed to educate themselves. They do it joyfully through play, questioning, and exploration. We don't need to educate children. All we need to do is to provide the conditions that would allow them to educate themselves. The basic instincts of childhood, their playfulness, their curiosity, their willfulness, their sociability, have been honed by natural selection to serve the function of education. But we take those abilities away when we put them in school and prevent them from educating themselves.
So I'm just trying to get back to you here, make sure I don't have something else running in the background. So that's Peter Gray, and you see how like permaculture is not a case of going backwards, it's a case of finding our way. And the natural born learner, very much the same thing. Now, Peter's joking a little bit when he says end of school, yay. He's not talking about the end of learning together. And so the whole idea of community learning hubs is a big part of this. Moving along here, some other good voices to hear. Trusting the young people. Let me go back there. And another little video. The problem here is that there's this attitude among adults that we really can't let kids be autonomous, let them decide what their education is going to be. They simply won't learn what they need to learn. And the more that's looked into, the more it's proven to be not true. When we listen to these young ladies, we get a taste of how we just do not need to fear young people having a say. And these are great ambassadors for us.
Sorry, Richard, maybe, there you go.
Good sound there, Nathan?
Yeah, sorry, all good.
During the child-friendly community conference, we from Wondering School made a presentation on sociocracy in schools. And as a follow-up conversation, we, together with Uniting for Children and Youth invited a group of youth activists to reflect on sociocracy in their own contexts.
But essentially, to me, it means like giving me a say, because I'm a young Muslim woman and I often don't get like included because I'm seen as a minority.
Yeah. Listening to people and really having not just kind of you're there as a token to kind of represent something, you're actually involving everybody's voices. So
not everything needs to go to the highest level, and it eliminates a lot of bureaucracy while spending time on things that really matter, like listening to people and coming up with creative solutions.
So I think the first step would be breaking down those judgments and like prejudices that people have of like just not valuing everyone's comment, whether it be often because of age, like adults just not respecting sort of young opinions.
I sometimes feel like the leaders of this generation have almost given up hope. Like they've lost their hope. Where is that need for change and where is that drive for change? Because you often, sometimes I think you go to your teachers in school and they just say, well, that's how it is, we can't change it. And you go to a lot of adults and they say, well, that's how it is, you know, the system's like it is, we can't really do anything about it, you know, there's no way to change it, but there is. And I'm so hopeful that our generation is going to be the new leaders.
So many of us have a voice, so many of us want to speak out and reach out.
So the point there is that
a pleasant day, everyone. This day is one.
The point there is that we can certainly include young people, should certainly include young people in the decisions that affect them. Roger Hart made this ladder famous. It's being presented in a whole variety of ways now. And at the bottom you have, it's not really equal or participatory. It's adults just tending to work.
Richard, I'm still seeing the YouTube. Maybe if you could switch to the slideshow.
I thought I was there. I'll see what I can do. May have to get back to stop the share for a moment.
Yep.
Seeing it there now?
Yeah.
And so Roger Hart's ladder, this is from actually the idea is from a UNESCO article that he wrote back in the 1990s, I think, and just presenting an image of relationships of adults with young people. And the goal would be, if we're going to be looking at relationships without power, rung 8 would be the one that you'd want to be striving for, where you have the adults and the young people together sharing decision making. But what does it look like? That's the real question. And just before I go to the next slide, I'll mention here that this particular way that it's displayed was from an article called How Philanthropy Can Support Youth-Grown Environmental Solutions, and it's by Charles Ogborn III, who's the founder when he was 12 years old of Greening Forward. So it's certainly a concept that's been around for a while. And what does equality look like? I haven't found anything that describes it better than this quote by Queensland Aboriginal activists. If you've come to help me, you are wasting your time, but if you've come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. The feeling in schools is that the teachers are there to help the kids learn. And so right away, you have a power imbalance. I'm here to help you. It's only when we accept that, no, we're here to be together and to problem solve together to make the best life we can for each other, that we really start to get to where our humanity is collectively found. I won't say more right now because of the time limits, but if there's time later, I'll talk about the Youth Rights Day, which is an effort to bring young people to the fore more as being equal partners in decisions that affect us. And so I'll turn it over to Sue now.
Thank you, Richard. It's so wonderful to be here today. And I've enjoyed all the presentations and love the way they flow and resonate with each other, despite us having, at least for myself, any practice with the others. It's just really quite wonderful the way we work together. So just to introduce myself very briefly, I'm a pediatrician at the Children's Hospital in Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada. I'm a professor of pediatrics at the University of Ottawa. And as sharing something very personal, my mother was a mountain climber amongst many other things that she did. And I realized my deep, deep, profound love of the land is coming from those early experiences of every weekend going hiking on the moors in the northern England, climbing mountains in the Himalayas and in South America. So just as a statement from, we're talking about mothers and children here. Working with the very basic principle, and it's a human rights principle encoded in the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, Article 19, and in the Convention's general comment on Article 19, child participation, that nothing about us without us. And with those principles, I'm going to share again 2 personal relationships that I have with my nephew, 5 years of age, Leo, and 8-year-old niece, Holly, to say a few words from the UK. Nathan's my IT expert on this presentation.
Okay, Leo, have you got any ideas on how we can make the planet keep it happy and healthy for all the people and living things? Yes. What are your ideas?
We need to not throw litter in the sea because animals might think it's food and eat it, and then they might die.
Good answer. Anything else?
No.
So Holly, how do you think we can make the world a better, happier place for people and animals to live in?
Plant more trees and plants, because planting trees will give animals a home, and planting more plants will give bees more pollen. Bees are very important because they make our plants healthier and vegetables and stuff, and we eat them. We need to stop cutting down trees because we are destroying animals' homes. Stop building loads of houses because it's destroying nature. Try to use solar energy more often because it is good for the environment. So is wind power.
Thank you, Nathan. So I'd just like to make a couple of very basic statements. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. Children will be the future stewards of planet Earth. And it's really important, as we've heard, that they're emotionally connected to the natural world if they're going to care for it and be the planet's best advocates. On the other hand, we have nature deficit disorder, which is not a medical diagnosis, but a term coined by Richard Louv in his 2005 book, Last Child in the Woods. He argues that all of us, and especially children, are spending more time indoors. This is before the pandemic, of course, connected to technology and alienated from nature, and are more vulnerable to physical and mental illness. So we should all be encouraging the development of a love and appreciation of the natural world in children for the sake of our planet, as well as for the individual child. And I'd like to highlight briefly how we did this in our own community. A small research project, but I think very powerful in its essence. Very busy slide. I'm just going to read you the title, Perspectives of High Needs Families on Visiting the Museum of Nature in Ottawa, one of the federal museums, a pilot study exploring social prescribing. If we could just zoom into the children's comments in the middle, Nathan, if that's possible, because I'll just give the outline. Maybe we're not able to do that, but I'll just say that we prescribed visits to the federally funded Museum of Nature for children and youth and their families who are living in a vulnerable inner city neighborhood in Ottawa as part of their healthcare. The families have little access to nature in a city and would not normally visit the museum because of economic and physical barriers, so we gave them free museum day passes and bus tickets. We have a long winter here in Ottawa. Richard is well aware of that. And many of these families generally use the shopping mall for family outings and to keep warm. Our methodology was qualitative and involved a pre and post museum visit survey for all participants in the family. And we used photo voice where all the children, even as young as 3 years of age, were given cameras and asked to take photos during their museum visit. And these were used to facilitate their post-survey stories. Well, the project was, not surprisingly, a total success, and you can read the children's comments ballooned in the poster in the middle. I don't know if you can see those, if we can somehow blow them up, but enough to say that the children had great fun learning about nature and wanting to return, as it was impossible to see all the exhibits in one visit. The project is presently on hold because of COVID restrictions, but we are hoping to scale up and build the evidence to advocate for free year-long passes to the museum for our low-income families. It really is a win-win, as it also fulfills the social accountability mandate of the Federal Museum. I'm going to share my email at the end, and people are most welcome to, this is a Canadian loon and babies. Please feel free to contact me. And I'd just like to say a couple of thoughts. I was so thrilled on Sunday evening watching those rather disjointed Oscars. I felt there was a huge generational divide. I didn't know half of the people there, but anyway. But My Octopus Teacher won the best documentary. And ever since seeing that documentary, I have a strong affinity with the natural world, all living things. But I understand octopuses or octopi in a different way, with a strong affinity of love for those animals. And I think we're talking about a museum visit. The ideal obviously is in a wilderness, in nature, in a forest. But if that can't happen, certainly the Richard Attenborough documentaries are out there, but this particular documentary was quite wonderful. I was going to say something else, but I'll keep it for the discussions if we have them. I was going to, if there's time, introduce the children and everyone to our pussycat, Mooney. She's 18 months of age, a Maine Coon cat. She's only still a kitten, but she's huge. And she has been so loving. She has given us so much love during the COVID time when we've been a very small family, disconnected. And it's just been a fabulous experience having this cat and having a relationship. I'm going to, for the children who are on this call, I promise before the end, I will bring her up. I'll introduce you to her all. Thank you, Emesi.
Thank you, Sue, Richard, Mary, and Nightingale. I really appreciated learning more from you. And Sue, I like hearing about your story as a child, especially. I think that's an important idea, that all of us are still children. we still have the child inside of us, if only we are ready to listen and reconnect. And so, Richard, the heart's ladder of engagement, I do like at the top that it shows children and adults working together, but I think sometimes we can take it even farther and humbly admits that as adults, we need to step back and listen to and learn from children. And I appreciate the opportunity to do that together with everyone today. So we want to invite everyone to participate in a breakout room. We think that given the size of the current space, that will enable much more effective conversation and meaningful connection. And again, that's what we're really prioritizing is the relationships. So that if you like how you feel here and you would like to stay connected, we want to remain connected to you so that we can learn and grow together. So I'm going to invite everyone to join a breakout room. And again, if you can just try and share things that you're interested in from the presentations, or even in your own work, your own life, and about children and the planet. And otherwise, hope you have a great conversation. And I'm just going to create the breakout rooms, aiming for approximately 5 people per room. Enjoy. So I see we still have several people who are together in the main room. So just wanted to check, does anyone have any questions or would you like to be put into a breakout room? I see you're back, Richard. You're on mute still?
There was only Sue and myself in our room 3, Nathan, so we thought we'd see if we could find another room to move to.
Yeah, let me put you in room 5, if I can find you.
I'm wondering if I can find myself. Am I able to do that, or does it have to be the host?
I think as co-host you could, but I tried to put you in room 5. I think that should be a good opportunity. Is anyone having a problem connecting? We're in breakout rooms right now. So just wanted to be sure. Okay, Emmanuel, I'm seeing your message. Yeah, that's a really important observation about ageism. I think we can talk about being pretty prominent and a lot of opportunities to improve on that regards, especially if we listen to children and recognize that they're people with rights and also so much to give. So thank you for sharing that. So I see Daniela Ivanildo, Jose, Renata, Cesar, Liete, and CJ, and Rosvita, and Julia. If anyone can hear me, just wanted to check and see if you have any questions or something you'd like to share. We appreciate you staying with us and connecting. Okay, thanks, Rosvita. I'm just gonna jump into another room. Hopefully everyone is enjoying, and thank you all again. Please share in the chat in case of any issues or ideas about how we can stay connected. Hello, everyone. I'm back in the main room. Just want to check and see if you could put in chat or unmute yourself if you have anything to share or if you'd like to connect with others in the breakout room. Please let us know. Thanks. Thanks, Rosvita, for your question. Right now, the others are in the breakout room and are having conversations. So I guess I could share thoughts about, yeah, planetary health. I see Derry just joined. I'm trying to just be sure that everyone is having a good experience in the breakout rooms, and sometimes the connections come and go. So I just want to check. Derry, you're welcome. I believe you're an educator, if I recall right, and also a musician and piano player. Are you able to share? Is your audio working? You're welcome.
I'm intrigued to know how you know that.
Richard Frensham.
Oh God, oh Richard, oh my goodness, yes.
Yes.
He always tells lots of rubbish about me. Yeah. Okay,
So,
I'm sorry I've arrived late. There've been 3 calls all running parallel, all incredibly interesting and impossible to miss. And yeah, so I've just come via Poland and London, but I finally got here. I did look in earlier. I just wanted to support Richard really because I think he's on a panel, isn't he?
Yeah.
Has the panel session happened? Have I missed it?
Yeah, the panel is over, and now people are in breakout rooms. Would you like to join a breakout room for a few minutes, or?
What time are you going to finish? It's 8:30 here in England now.
You know, we're due to finish in 3 minutes. I'm
All
trying
right.
to.
All right. Can you put me in the same room as Richard, just so I can say hello? Thank you.
Yeah, let me try to do that. He is in room 5, so I'll try and put you into room 5 if. There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm off. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Derry. So if anyone can still hear me, I think Rosvita, I've seen your chats. We are almost at the 90-minute mark. I'm thinking that people are enjoying the connection in the breakout room, hopefully, but I will probably end the breakout rooms in a couple of minutes and then have everyone come back for a few final words, but still feel free to chat. Let us know in case of any questions or ideas to share. Thanks. Hey, Chanel.
Hi, Nathan.
Welcome back to the main room. How was the breakout?
It was good.
Great. Any issues or?
No issues. We discussed a lot about the octopus movie. Yeah. Apparently it's a very good movie. Sue has recommended it, and when I get a chance, I'll probably get to watch it as well. So we had a good discussion. We also got to introduce each other and got to know a little bit about everybody else.
Great.
Sorry, Nathan, can I just introduce the pussycat for the children, because she's very autonomous.
Yeah, and what I'll do is take another minute before I close the breakout room. So I think we'll have several others join in a couple of minutes. But if you want to share about the pussycats, several of us are here now. I think Grace is here, and Chanel from the breakout room. So
yes, you can see we have some yes, okay. What can I say? She's got her own mind. What were we saying about in Richard's talk about the well-being related to autonomy? She's pretty much totally autonomous. Unfortunately, she had a little bit of an obstruction from something she swallowed a few weeks ago, which she had to go into a hospital for 3 nights and have a little operation. But anyway, she's much better now.
Yeah, thank you for bringing in the more than human as a reminder that humans are not the only members of planet Earth. And so as we talk about children and the planet, it's not just human children, it's also pussycats and dogs and all other
absolutely
members of the biosphere.
Okay, she's on her way now.
Oh, wait, Sue, I think we're having more people join. So if I think, yeah.
I think she wants to go. Wait a minute.
Okay, we'll respect her wishes. Yeah.
Okay, there you go, Moni. It was particularly for the children, but for all of us, really. She's such a beautiful creature. There you go. Can you see her?
Yes.
She loves to be stroked and kissed. I'll show you her paws, because she's like got lion-like paws. She's very tall. Can you see? Sorry.
She's a big cat, just the size of her paws are big, Sue.
She's only 15 months.
Oh my gosh, she's beautiful though.
I'll stand back a little bit so that you can see before I put her. She's quite long. Okay, I think she's ready to be autonomous now, Richard. Okay.
Sue, she's almost as tall as you are.
So welcome back, everyone. Thank you for connecting with us. And we are now at our 90-minute mark. We're a little bit over, so thank you all for your patience. Really hope everyone had a nice experience in the breakout room. We're just going to share a couple of slides about the closing and next steps I shared in the chat. a Google Documents where if you're not yet connected on the CHIP list, we would really appreciate the opportunity to continue getting to know you better and to co-create and plan next steps. So actually, let me see, just do 2 slides. So we appreciate everyone who participated with us today, and really the hundreds of people at a minimum who have played a part in getting us this far. And we really look forward to hearing your ideas about whether it's what was presented today or your ideas about how we can connect child health with planetary health, work that you're involved in, organizations that might be interested in collaborating. And ultimately, we look forward to welcoming you and anyone in your circle to the CHIP family. So childandplanet@gmail.com is an easy way to send us a message and ask to be included on the list or to share your ideas. And otherwise, I will officially end the program now, but we're not in a rush. We don't want to push anybody away. And so I want to open up the space to anyone who has something to share, even like a song or a poem. But again, thank you all, and we hope to be in touch again soon.
Nathan, I'm assuming too, if anyone has a question for any one of the panelists too, if they want to, we can have dialogue as well. Yes.
Yes, it's all ideas welcome. Democratic space. We're now
open
after the official program. So just want to welcome everyone to stay, but also no pressure and feel welcome.
I'm just going to put in the chat again, Nathan, the document where I have some references, and one of them is to a book written by Derry Hannum, who is on the call here with us still, and he's had a lot of experience with democratic schools and gives some really good insight into how we can start to transform them. I don't know if you want to say anything about that or not, Derry.
Sorry, I'm glad you didn't hear my cursing at the mute. Yeah, well, first of all, I apologize for coming late to this incredibly interesting meeting twice. Unfortunately, there have been several other calls going on at the same time, one of which has involved a prize-winning Teacher of the Year from the Varkey Foundation Prize in England, an art teacher who's very, very critical of the government, trying to shut her down because of her advocacy of arts education, art, music, drama, dance, etc. And I really had to go and support her at her session, which was extremely interesting. Yes, I agree with everything Richard was saying just now in the breakout room about the importance of the democratic schools movement. It isn't very well known, and it's not included in teacher training courses as often as it should. But there are now 700 or 800 of these schools around the world, so they do need to be better known. They are becoming a little bit better known in some countries, like Israel, for example, or Norway. And to some extent in my own country, where we've got a kind of outbreak, about 10 democratic startup schools, and through the COVID lockdowns, a fairly massive parental awakening to the absurdity of much that goes on in the regular school system. Curriculum absurdity, behavior management absurdity, all of it not treating children in the kind of way that would be encouraging them to open up to the needs of planetary survival and planetary education, which is incredibly important, But one of the most exciting things for me is to see young people's organizations emerging all around the world that are very vocal about the issues that you've been talking about. And in many cases, my own teachers' union, for example, the National Education Union in England, actually admitting that most teachers don't know as much about climate change issues as some of their most forward-thinking students. And some of the students involved in the climate action movement in England are really quite young. They're 13, 14, 15, with some assistance from university students. But that is very exciting and is growing and is beginning to be listened to by teachers. I mean, depressingly, we've just had a poll of teachers in England which showed that 80% of English secondary school teachers do not feel capable of teaching climate change issues, though their students are crying out to know more and to use the schools as centres for action. So there's an awful lot to be done. Anyway, thanks for bringing me in, Richard. I hope you've had a very interesting session. The bits of it that I've heard have been great. And just a quick comment, Stephanie Schuler in our small breakup group got cut off. And just as she was talking about agile learning, which is another very interesting subject, and I realized we must have some acquaintances in common, including Nancy Tilton at Mosaic School in Carolina, with a lovely school. So, and the whole agile learning movement is aimed to encourage children, encourage young people to open their eyes in an open-hearted way and develop a commitment to each other and to the planet. So I would say the agile learning movement is at the heart of what your conference has been trying to achieve. Thanks for that, Stephanie. We must talk further about it.
Thanks, Terry. Yeah, I know Nancy well. We've hung out, and I've been at Mosaic and at many of the agile learning centers that are growing around the world. But I think it's, also important, to me, it doesn't matter the name of the school. It doesn't, a brand. Although agile learning centers certainly are increasing around the world, mostly by people who are educators or healthcare workers, it's interesting, who became parents and said, no, I'm going to do it this way. I can't do it that way. I know too much, or this is what I pictured more. I pictured more of playing with my kids through the years and taking them through the museums and that kind of thing. So, I think it's really important that it isn't like those kind of schools and these kind of schools. It's different initiatives that have been taken up by people just like us who have proven, at least from my perspective in my travels around to various schools, to really care about systemic wellness of the individual and the community at its core. And to me, that's number one. And regarding the results, children who come out of those schools, because we do still care about the marks and getting into this place and that place, but there's actually growing popularity to be accepted, apply and be accepted to post-secondary institutions in different ways other than grading and whatnot, which many say standardized testing and grading cause a lot of stress and anxiety and depression and other health concerns, that it contributes to it. And, in the States alone, a quarter to half of the population of children are stressed out, anxious, self-label themselves as anxious, depressive issues, and on meds. So it's a huge issue to be putting it at the center. And I think we're going to merge that, and we're going to all come together and put all the pieces together, along with the health piece of being outside and really on natural spaces, even in urban centers.
Thank you, Derry and Stephanie. Our dream for CHIP is that this co-creation, this dynamic relationship between not just adults and children, but also educators and health professionals, along with a long list of others. But what you've just raised, Stephanie, is a specific interesting proof of concept and case study where the health and education are blended very impactfully. And so not to try and limit the discussion, but on behalf of the CHIP team, we're really interested in how we can stay together, thinking about what has brought us together and what can keep us together. So if anyone has thoughts about something that you've seen of interest in this space or something that you'd like to contribute, we have a real open, friendly community where if you have a project that you'd like to highlight, if you'd like to step up and join a leadership team or form a leadership team to translate any of these concepts, please share either now or in the future. And then generally, if anyone has ideas about a planetary community for keeping people who care about children and the planet together, please share those because that's what we're directly working on. Thanks again.
Could you put a contact point for CHIP into the chat, Nathan, please?
Yeah, I'll put the email now. It's kind of easy to remember. Hopefully it's childandplanet@gmail.com, but I'll put that in the chat now.
Thank you, Nathan, because I was about to ask what is the next step for CHIP and if there are some specific goals. I mean, I understand that the main thing is to bring everyone together under a same roof, if you will. But are there any further thoughts at this point?
I'll welcome any of the other active CHIP members to answer that, and then I could maybe come in.
Maybe I can just mention what drew me to it. I've done volunteer work with a local ecology group, Ecology Ottawa, and you can't be looking at the lives of children without looking at the world that they're inheriting. So from an educator's point of view, it wasn't enough to be thinking about only education. And now that I've gotten to know the Planetary Health Alliance better, I see that you have a lot of academics there, university professor point of view, but you don't really have something that brings a solid focus to the children and brings that together with the whole planetary view. So I find that CHIP is just filling a void there for the Planetary Health Alliance that is really valuable, and I was drawn to it as soon as I heard that they were doing that.
Thank you, Richard. My concise framing echoes your point, Richard, that in a planetary health or environmental space, much of the time children are not included and their voices are not reflected, their rights are not respected. And so in environmental spaces, if we have a team that can move together and join those spaces and remind people, children matter, children are a part of this world. We welcome you and anyone who has that interest and believes in that to help us to ensure that these voices of children are amplified. And on the other side, in child health spaces, enough of the time, as Derry just summarized, the environmental, the climate, the planetary perspective is not sufficiently reflected or represented. So in those spaces, again, if we have a team who share the core values and share this passionate commitment to the integration between children and planet, then also in the child health spaces, we can welcome people who have that interest in connecting to learn more about nature deficit disorder, about planetary health, about prevention of pandemics and what a truly just world looks like. So that's a simple framing. I know it's not at a clear specific level, but if you'd like to talk more, we'd be happy to arrange a call to hear your ideas, because ultimately I think it's proportional. The amount of impact that we can have is directly related to how close we are, how much we trust each other, and building from that common foundation so that we know what we're doing and can support each other.
I'll just add to that, Nathan, that there's, as I see it, there's a disconnect between the adult world and the kids' world. that the adults are looking at how to fix the problems from an adult perspective. And so the kids are almost left to go off the rails for 12 years of school in an authoritarian competitive environment where they're not allowed to be critical thinkers. We want them to be, but we don't allow them to ask serious questions. And so in that very controlled environment, and then they get to be adults, and we want to try to undo a whole bunch of that damage, or rekindle what they were as young learners, that idea that I was such a great learner and then I went to school. And there's just way too much truth in that comment. They are now being taught by people who have been schooled, who, if they had to become free learners, natural learners again, they'd have a hard time doing it. So we've developed a whole adult teaching profession that themselves are not really lifelong learners anymore. They're dispensers of curriculum. And so we've got to get rid of that disconnect and bring it back together. Let kids be in the environment that they see around them, and let them ask the hard questions and work in the community to make things better. Break down the walls of the school.
I just came from a breakout room with someone who's from an Indigenous community, and he was sharing how the community now mostly focuses on tourism as, you know, the main focus of why the wildlife or nature is preserved. But they themselves, you know, they've been pastoralists, and they're gradually losing that part of connecting with the natural space. They're losing their culture, and their culture is intertwined with love of the land that has fed them and nurtured them for years. And so, like you guys are saying, there's a clear disconnect that we must move quickly so that we can respect the children and the spaces that we depend on, and sharing these, you know, that not all aspects of our different cultures are good, but there's so many of them that are good, and these are the ones that we must try to maintain. And just like we would like to keep languages, because it is in the language that you have sometimes the only words that mean anything about nature and the natural space. Just like it is very hard to tell, as a Kikuyu person, it's very hard to translate a Kikuyu joke in another language and make it be that funny. It is still about the same as appreciating nature, that you appreciate it the most in your own way, that you don't want to lose.
There's a lot of talk about decolonizing our schools, and to get some understanding of what that means, there's this remarkable documentary by Carol Black called Schooling the World, which is essentially how the colonizers went out and not only robbed people of their land, but they robbed them of the culture as well, exporting their idea of what a good education is. And so to really get back to nature and the diversified lives that people have been living, we really need to take a lesson from that film. It might require, I think I watched it 3 times before I really started to get all of the substance to it. It's very full.
Welcome.
Well, Richard, I think one of the main things about that film that really struck me, and actually, Derry, I watched it with Nancy Tilton and Thomas, her husband, but for the first time. And the thing that, and Nightingale, it totally goes with what you were just saying. This way of schooling that we know, that was imposed, you know, upon the world, has made one few literacies that are a priority. And because of that, other literacies are not. And you can only do we're only built now to do certain things, and most of those things are in the urban centers. So leaving all of our homes that we grew up in, when you get to the adult-ish age, by going to the urban centers, you often lose your cultural identity, and you lose your connection to your community, to your immediate family and your extended family. And I think this is all part of the inequities and the hatreds and the intolerances that we have for each other, because should we be encouraging and supporting where we came from and all the culture and the ceremonies that someone spoke of, or should we be blending and erasing those histories, those ancestries? And I think that we need the free environments that aren't externally imposed, so that we can be free to explore all of those things and share in all of those things, and not lose it, because that movie talks about how so many communities are only have their elders there, and the young people have left, and young people don't know how to fish. We see it in COVID right now. Do we know how to grow a tomato in parts of the different parts of the world? Do children in schools know how to grow things to sustain themselves? Do any of us know how to grow and sustain ourselves? And and are we losing our identities? We need to be able to preserve our identities and also be one world, one love, and no divisions anymore. Human beings, and we see that from COVID. It's very humbling. We've got to share our wisdoms, which are coming together. We're all coming to the same places of really, truly peace and love. That's all.
I'd like to bring forward the cooperative learning movement and all the knowledge there is on how to build cooperative learning, which of course goes against the school paradigm of competitive learning. But it's out there, and people have been working towards it.
There's some pretty encouraging movement towards what's being referred to as the community of learners, building learning communities that become whole neighborhoods. And Zach Stein, who I had a little clip from, has talked about that, but there are others that go into it in more detail. So something to look for there, the nature of a community learning hub. And Peter Gray talks about that a little bit too, using the library model, that you go into a library and it's basically about self-directed learning for life. Go to a place like that and somebody will be there to help you with your questions if you have them, to learn what you want to learn.
Apropos of that, Richard, one of the calls I've been on tonight that I'm quite pleased about was to get in with a meeting of English head teachers, where I talked a little bit about the community school that I was involved in setting up really some years ago, where we brought the library from the small town into the school and combined it with the school library. We opened up school classes to adults, so adults were learning with kids in the same classroom. And we abolished the school uniform, this sort of barbaric English practice of making all the kids dress up in the same way. We managed to get rid of that because it was completely absurd to have adults in the class with no uniform and kids in the class having to dress up in fancy dress. And we were trying to use the school as a learning hub for the whole community, as a resource for the whole community, and use the whole community as a resource for the kids in the school, gradually breaking down the barriers between what was school and what was community. We had a community education council on which every organisation in the town was represented, and it was always chaired by a 15 or 16-year-old student from the school. And I was thinking, we were doing this 40 years ago, and we founded a network called the Community Schools Association in England. We had about 20 members, and it's just been killed off by this wave of Reagan, Thatcher, the whole neoliberal thing, turning schools into businesses, setting them against each other. As Leoma talked about, collaboration between kids rather than competition. When we were working towards collaboration between schools, but we've had this competitive league table system imposed on us. And I was very pleased that tonight, to this meeting of head teachers, there were about 40 there, such a strong desire to resist this governmental neoliberal pressure to be at each other's throats and to get away from the idea of schooling being as a kind of tool for increasing GDP, for growth, for economic growth, to begin to see schools as places where we should develop the human potential of everybody, not just a few. At present, we make half the kids feel failures and useless, and the other half, who we say are successful, are pretty anxious about their success, and it doesn't generate well-being. I was very interested that one of the themes at your conference, I think today with business, was beginning to find some way of valuing economic success in a new way that didn't just look at success as economic, bottom line, profit, etc. Didn't just look at financial success in terms of finance. And I wonder how far you got with developing a new way of judging successful education and health provision. And incidentally, it is exciting to find your organization, which is absolutely linking health and education, because the two seem inextricably linked to me.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you, Erica and Raphael, just joined recently. We are having basically an open dialogue. We had the presentations in the breakout rooms, but I think there's still energy and interest in sharing and connecting more. We're doing our best to have everyone have an opportunity to share. So especially if you haven't spoken yet and you have an idea about how you're interested in the connections between children and planet Earth, and how we as a team can remain connected and have positive impact. So everyone feel welcome, and especially if you haven't shared yet and would like to, we appreciate.
I actually have something that I can add. So right now I'm currently working with Dr. Leslie Solomonian and Annalisa Badalou. And so, sorry, my name is Mariah, and I'm a third-year naturopathic medical student, and I run the pediatrics club at my school. So right now I'm actually recruiting people, like colleagues that I know and other people that are passionate about this, to actually join CHIP and to help like with the social media content and just different kind of little projects that are going on. So right now I have 10 volunteers so far, but I'm still kind of advertising on my social media pages for it. And then Annalisa is going to jump on a call with us and kind of discuss future directions. So I just kind of wanted to introduce myself and say hi.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mariah. That's really exciting. And honestly, we need all the help we can get. We have cast a wide net talking about all children and our planet. And so to actually be able to show that we're doing something that leads to positive impacts, we're going to need a big team who are really connected strongly. So Mona, I don't know if you're available to speak, but I know Mona is doing amazing things in Egypt as well with medical education. And it just reminded me, Mariah, when you mentioned the work that you're doing with your colleagues, I think Mona in her school has a similar team. So maybe that could be a collaboration opportunity. Just a thought.
That would be amazing.
Thank you, Nathan, very much. And thank you, Mariah, for all your passion in putting this forward. I'm really looking forward to collaborate more on this part. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I was actually reading a couple direct messages that I just got. But I would like to connect with you, Mona. Would you be able to send me your email and then we can talk more about what you're doing?
Yes, sure. I'll send you an email. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I saw Raphael put a message in the chat, maybe that he's not sure if we could hear him, but maybe you could try just to see. And if not, feel free to use the chat.
Hello.
Hello.
Is somebody? Yeah, you are getting me. Yeah. First of all, I wanted to appreciate the dairy and the old people who are participating in this particular forum. It gives me encouragement, and it gives me that to see that the life of this forum, children and planetary health is a key sentiment to be considered. Or especially we know children are more of our tomorrow. So if we culture them from this point to kind of get the children know and rather understand what conservation is and appreciate conservation from the word go, from their grassroots, the way they are now, and as young as they are, then our future will become very, very bright. Involving children in these particular forums, in more especially in conservation, will engage them, or rather will give them a practice, a culture, which they will always live as their way of life, and inculcate all aspects of life in their living. Especially, I heard in a dairy talk of a community education council, which is a very good idea that we want to buy in and also incorporate in most of our education and curriculums in our countries, more especially in Africa, because community education council will always make sure that people, or rather the communities, more especially the indigenous communities in Kenya, in Africa, incorporates all the young people in their conservation, in conservation, sorry. And also, if we can have our curriculums in our schools being incorporated with a subject on environment, a subject on health of our children, HIV, AIDS, culture, and all sort of an cultural and all sort of children's and way of life, then our people or our children will always get to be cultured and understand environment more. So having old people in this forum is encouraging me so much. It encourages me so much to see the future and the life of this forum of ours. And we need to build our children and teach from the family level to community level, that we teach our children, and even in churches, in our spiritual institutions, in our academic institutions, in our public institutions, in our political forums, then we need to incorporate and mention something on including children, or rather teaching or culturing children towards conservation. Thank you so much, Nathan. Thanks so much.
Is it possible to just jump in quickly, Nathan, to respond to what Raphael's just said?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Because something I didn't say, there's, as well as the Community Education Council, which was young people from the school, teachers, parents, and people from the many organizations that existed in the town, voluntary organizations, sports organizations, etc., etc. we were also moving to what we called the 20% principle, where 20% of the curriculum time was allocated to the purposes, concerns, passions, interests, questions of the young people. So although we had the state curriculum, which we were supposed to use for 100% of the time, we pushed it back and created a space within the school curriculum that would give a space for the kids to request or provide. Sometimes the kids would do the teaching on these courses or share in the teaching, but that 20% of curriculum time was dedicated to the interests and passions of the young people themselves. And I'm very pleased to notice that in Switzerland, in the last year, the Swiss have produced a new national curriculum, and the schools are only allowed to allocate 80% of curriculum time to the official curriculum. Schools have to provide 20% of time, 1 day a week or 2 half days a week, to the concerns and interests of the young people. And I would be really happy to see this idea blossom and spread worldwide. It's beginning to crop up here and there. In California, you'd find the 20% principle. The Economic Intelligence Unit is now arguing for 20% of school time to be allocated to the interests of the young people. If you do this, you'll find that an awful lot of young people want to use that 20% to talk about things like planetary sustainability, climate change, etc., etc. These are the things that many young people want to learn more about. Thank you for that extra slot.
Thank you, Derry. And I noted Liliane mentioned that this does apply broadly. And so as we're discussing, I think that some of these opportunities for collaboration and translating these ideas into specific objectives will come about. And the connection between Derry and Raphael, I really appreciate that. And that's what we hope to do as CHIP, is to continue opening up these spaces where people can connect, because really that's where the hope lies, is in tapping into who we truly are and our passions to heal the brokenness that is so common right now. So I want to again echo an invitation, anyone who hasn't shared yet. We really would like to hear Diana, Samuel, Gugu, Erica. I think several of you just joined, and not to say anyone else can't speak, but Vanessa, we haven't heard from you either. So would really love to hear from everyone if possible.
Hello, I'm Vanessa. I'm a health professional. Hello, people from Africa. Liliane. I'm a health professional. I'm a dietitian, integrative dietitian, because I work also with Pilates and body consciousness and wellness coach in general. And so recently I became member of the lifestyle medicine group here in Brazil, which brought together all this understanding that I always had about the health of a human being. I finished the nutrition university, and I didn't stop because to treat somebody, it's, I mean, a whole being. So I kept taking this education in different pillars, I would say. I'm doing my doctoral in food science now at the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro. I work in the biochemistry. It's so far away from this universe of the planetary health. It's so, you know, I work with, I work with pregnant women. I'm working with placenta, which is an environment very important and relevant to study, because if you work with this ambience, you were treating like generations ahead, not only the children. So it's kind of it's very important to what we are doing here in a way, but it's inside the cell. So I have this feeling now. I became ambassador, the Planetary Health Ambassador in the program at USP recently, and it brought me here. I'm here because of this connection, because I always had this planetary feeling and huge love and critical for all the paradigms and all the structures that we have been passing through. So I kind of found myself here, but I feel that I need to, I'm like here, I have all this knowledge that I built, but I feel that I need to go to projects or to start spreading out this in a bigger way, because I have been doing clinical, like with individuals and biochemistry and very focused. So here I am, everything is very new for me. I don't know where to start. And the question that keeps coming to my head is where to start? Because here in Brazil, we have a huge problem with politics. It's, I don't know, this ethic of the politics. How can we change if they don't get it? So away, I will not take your time with that. So I'm here. I'm very grateful. This is like my dharma. It's like my purpose. I would like to, I'm here. I put if you need anything about health, and I am so glad to share and to jump in whatever project or somebody come up with. I'm based in Rio. But I have connections in Europe too, because I have a French son. And actually I'm doing a connection with somebody in Portugal to build a webinar about animal rights. So, wow, that's it. I put there in the paper, I mean, we need to change like the structure of education, like yesterday. It's like, the children need to understand about nutrition, about ecology, about neuroscience, about ethics, philosophy, and interconnectivity. And, they are learning like, I don't know. Thank you very much for this time. And sorry, maybe I took too long. Thank you.
You crack me up, Vanessa. Just had to say, you crack me up. That's so sweet. Big hug, virtual hug from me.
Hello.
Hello, Diana.
Hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you, Diana.
Okay, I would like to say that I'm happy to be here. And I think that it is important to incorporate child health with planetary health, because I believe that introducing such concepts like planetary health and everything around it to children, especially at a young age, is important, because at a young age they have not learned much that is negative. And when they grasp these concepts first, they'll be able to understand what is planetary health, how important it is, and even as they grow up, they will grow up in such a way that they work to protect nature, to protect the environment, and in such a way we will breed a generation that is better and different in a positive way. So involving children, especially at a young age, is very important, even from the very small ones, the ECDE and the preschool children and the elementary school and high school and even up to university level. Yeah, that will be very important. And I think that is what CHIP is all about. And that is why I'm really excited about this. And my hope is that our educational institutions are ready to acknowledge that and be able to adopt the planetary health concept into the curriculum right from the word go when a child joins school. Yes, thank you so much.
Yes, Melvin, you're welcome.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melvin Otieno, and proud to be part of Child Health is Planetary Health. So I've just been thinking a lot of how, when I used to be young, I used to see my friends being driven by vehicles to school. But at that particular moment, I used to trek long distance to arrive to school. So this thought came into my mind on how can we have a healthy community design that can benefit children in very important ways. So you find out that at the moment, there is also increase in obesity and diabetes that are rising among children. And also asthma is also highly prevalent. And I'm thinking if the school sitting and design are, for example, on how to build an environment that can influence children's health, we find that when these new schools are built for a long distance from where families live, then children need to be driven to school. And this deprives them from having an opportunity for physical activity and also contributing to air pollution and other risks for automobile crashes. So you find out that if schools are located within walking or biking distance or of where people live, it can offer safer routes to schools, and then the children can make a walking distance and also use bicycles to arrive on their daily basis. But this can result to establishing a healthy habit that can last for a lifetime. So it is really important that the way we design our schools in such a way that it can promote children's health. And also this can encourage even their school performance. So I was just thinking of a way, how can we strategize on focusing more on this? Because it has been a challenge for many young kids who have to go to school at a long distance, and they have to be driven by vehicles. At the same time, the way, for example, here in Kenya, the way the roads are designed are not well designed for children to move easily with even this bicycle. So I think we need to focus more on how we can engage even the policymakers in this aspect so that we can see how to go about this situation. Thank you so much for listening.
If I can say something to what Melvin was talking about. So in United States, the Blue Zones initiative, they did specific studies of with communities where they, for a specific amount of time, they make them in such a way where everybody would walk to school, and parents and grandparents will walk with the kids to school, and then they monitored the results of that. And to your point, so there are some, because all of those have to be measured, so then there can be more funding because we have results and blah, 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 all those beautiful things. So I think one of the ways we can do that is that we need to take those studies that have already been done. They do show the results of the health, of the mental impact, mental well-being impact, the street traffic that improves the economy of the community. as well, and then the lower pollution. So you have all that holistic integration of all those aspects that we talk about planetary health. So I think it's just a matter of getting these studies into the people who design the cities. And this is part of some of us who work with how do we build regenerative communities as we move forward, especially after what we have seen this year, because this is part of the future.
Liliane, have you come across the ideas of Vilfredo Pareto, the Italian philosopher? I was interested in your comment about the 80-20 rule applying in many areas, and he sort of built his whole philosophy around the idea that something like 80% of the nourishment in a pod of peas comes from 20% of the peas. Really absurd examples like that. But what I discovered was when you gave 20% of the curriculum time in school to the interests and purposes of the children, the amount of learning per minute within that 20% far outweighed the amount of learning per minute in the other 80% of the prescribed curriculum. And the more that the 20% generated energy, actually, it transformed the attitudes of young people to learning and to school. And so if I'd stayed longer at that school, we would have extended it to 30%. And gradually, of course, I would like to see the 80-20% to be the other way round, maybe, for the 80% to be the curriculum created and desired and purposed by the young people, and the other 20% to the numeracy and literacy, which perhaps we'll always have to worry about as school systems.
I think there is something about the tipping point of that 80-20, because we can see both in negative terms. So let's say 80% of people may be obese, but then the 20% that will start making the shift to a healthier diet, let's say, over time will help that 80-20 shift. So, and we see it with economies, we see it in government, we see it in all sectors. So I think there's something magic about that proportion.
I agree. Absolutely agree. Yeah.
Well, I also just wanted to say that I think it's really crucial that the conversation we're talking about wanting to change systemically education globally. And this is an opportunity to do after a pandemic, because it's really turned education on its head, including the notion of a schoolhouse, how relevant that might be. And do we want to be recreating centers like a schoolhouse where children and everybody are indoors all day, sitting all day? Is that what we want with the science that we know? But I think the key thing that we know now is, I think the key thing that this conversation and this week of conversations is different, because it's not the education silo meeting on their own, and it's not the health and wellness silo of nurses and doctors and health professionals meeting on their own. It's us coming together and saying, this equals this. If we do things in this way, in the old ways, it's negative for many of the children, much of the percentage of the children, it's a negative result. Versus if we try something else. And what credentials are we saying? We're talking about parents, we're talking about people in the health and wellness area and education coming together saying, we need to increase thriving for human beings and thriving with the land. We're coming together saying that there's too many negative implications for human beings and for the planet, which we know. But here we have the healthcare professionals speaking up, saying exactly what is wrong on a planetary level and on a human level and on an animal level, any inhabitant of planet Earth. The conversation has never really come together. It's been in separate silos. And right now, the main thrust of what's important to me is the mental wellness crisis for children around the world and youth around the world that is undeniable. And for no other reason, this has got to be, and at the same time, we have a climate crisis, no coincidence, because it's all one ecology. So all of us are speaking up and coming together, perhaps because of COVID, and all of us being thrown into these virtual spaces and being able to elevate the conversation and bring all these vested stakeholders together, which is everybody, and put it together and say, let's try a different way, at least 20% of the time, at least 80% of the time. Let's ease into it and try a different way of designing, imagining, designing, consciously designing new spaces that encourage wellness, that encourage thriving, that encourage community, and encourage all of our identities and all our ancestries and cultures, environments that aren't necessarily tied to a schoolhouse and sitting and indoors and artificial air and artificial light, environments where we can actually, 80% of the world has a smartphone. So where we can actually, not that I ever encourage to take that in outside spaces, but if we want to learn in outside spaces with these devices, we can. We have the technology. But I also encourage the balance of not always doing things, but just being a human being. And, being a human being that's part of nature. It's not separate to nature. So I think bringing the conversation together is the key difference right now. And because of COVID, we have done that en masse. Really, really amazing what all of you are saying. And maybe we have hope.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for that great insight. Because it is true that even though there's so much bad that has come out of COVID, this is one clear thing, that the connections, we just have much more diverse connections. And it has also brought us at least a tiny bit closer to us seeing some things through the same lens. So it's an incredible lesson for us to learn. So I just wanted to check and see. I know we've been having this discussion. It's a great discussion, and eventually we will have to say goodbye. But before we say goodbye, I do want to check if there's anybody who hasn't shared here that would really like to share something before we head out. If you do, please speak up. We'll leave the mic open for just a little bit so that you can, sometimes it takes a little time to gather the courage, and sometimes it takes a little time to find the unmute button.
Can you hear me? Oh.
Yes, I heard you, Derry.
Oh, I just before you go, I put some information about Jose Pacheco's project in Sao Paulo, which might be of interest to people in Brazil. He ran a school in Portugal called the Escola da Ponte, is that right? The bridge school, basically, in Portugal, which was quite a democratic and community-based school. But since 2017, he's been working in Sao Paulo with what is called the Ancora project, which very much brings together in a community sense education and health. And I thought, as there are people at this event who are in Brazil, they might like to find out more about him or even go and talk to him. He's just written a book about what he's doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Derry.
Can you see the chat? I've sent some information to Vanessa privately, but I wonder, is it possible for that to be put into the general chat so that everybody could see it?
I got it. Let me see if I can copy and paste. I don't think I can do that. No, okay. Hold on. I'm copying it. Don't know if it's
Yes, I tried. I couldn't make it work. But I'm a technological idiot, so.
So Vanessa copies. Is there anybody else who has something that you really are burning to share and you don't want to take it home with you?
Correct. And so Paulo.
Vedast, I know we've not heard from you, and Samuel and Grace, Erica, Cesar, Rosvita.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Vanessa.
Okay, yeah, so
Thank
yeah,
you.
I just followed everything, and yeah, I was happy of everything that was shared, and yeah, so right now I don't have much to share, but so we are moving, we are heading to the fantastic direction, I would say. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you, Vedast. Go ahead, Rosvita. Or anyone else? I saw Rosvita had unmuted herself.
I
Go
was
ahead.
just saying, my name is Rosvita, and I appreciate you all for hosting this meeting. Very informative and very, it opens our minds, our hearts, to be able to help the children of this world and to be able to work for our environment, both for the children and for us all. Thank you very much. Sorry I was not able to be in the break room, but I listened to every bit and I am so encouraged. I hope we will be kept updated with the proceedings of this group meetings. And if I got an email that we can send our probably our insights, our ideas, our views. So I'll go ahead and do that. Thank you very, very much, everybody.
Thank you, Rosvita. Grace or Erica, Ivanildo, Cesar, Samuel.
Hi everyone. As it's late, it's almost midnight here, so I was almost dozing off. I'm sorry. The topic about children is something that touches my life so much because I work around children, and there's something I learned during COVID, that children are in school, but they're just learning things that go with academics. They don't learn anything that will help them outside schoolwork, outside the school compound. For example, we had so many girls getting pregnant at a very young age because they don't know how to survive outside the restricted environment of the school. So changing the school curriculum or changing the way these kids learn will help them to survive even outside school. So I'm so grateful to have been in this forum tonight. And thank you everyone for your information. Some of us here are learning to put into practice. Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't know that I can save the chat. This is very good. Oh, good. Thank you,
Okay.
Lilian.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Samuel.
Good evening, Nathan. How are you doing?
I'm great.
Sorry, I could not start the session with you because I was in another planetary health group. But right from the time I came in, it's been beautiful. I've been following everything and it's quite interesting. Uh, I've already registered with the CHIP. I think I'm a part of the team, though we've not been very active recently because of my many engagements. But just for the context of this evening, I'm very much interested in child and child health. It's been one of my centers of interest, especially as it revolves around their health and the health of their mothers. And so, not just in Africa, but for the rest of Africa and and South Asia, I think there's that high burden of neonatal disorders. And I'm trying to do research into child health, the health of children under the age of 5. I'm interested in both the epidemiological and pedagogical research work. I'm very much more interested in research than in other aspects, but I feel I would love to be a part of maybe not only research. I could use this as an opportunity to learn and see if I would have that inclination towards dealing directly with children or working directly with children. But as of this moment, it's just a learning curve for me, just to see what people do. And so far this evening, it's been beautiful talking about the 80-20, and very rightly so. Yes, we have a world where people are forced to study what they feel or what the teachers feel the children should learn rather than what the children feel inclined to learn. But at the same time, I feel there is cause for caution such that we do not get to another tipping end of the scale where we now have a complete abolishment of the curriculum as we have today, and then we center it upon individual desire to learn, and so much that they become discrepancies in what is being learned, because almost every child wants to design what they want to study, and we have that dissonance in the educational sector. So, but if we are able to create something that gives just as much opportunity to the learner to decide what he wants to learn under the confines of a well-structured curriculum, I think it will do very good for both the children and for the world at large. So it's beautiful to be a part of this team. It's beautiful to also be a part of the session so far. Much appreciations to everyone who has contributed either actively or passively, and to every word of knowledge and contribution that has been made on the platform. I look forward to more interesting connections with everyone here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Samuel. So I think we're getting closer to the goal of everyone together in the space having had an opportunity to share. If I'm remembering correctly, Erica and Lietje might be the only ones who haven't yet had a chance to share. So just want to confirm, if you would like to share, feel welcome.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, sorry, Nathan. Okay, yeah, something has come in my mind at the last minute. There is an urgent need for advocacy. Advocacy on children rights in the sub-Saharan Africa, especially in my country, because many more children are being employed in the homes of so-called rich people instead of being sent to the schools. That's very, very problematic, I would say. So that's something we can think of, and yeah, that's where an urgent effort is needed. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing, Vedast. I fully agree with you, and just want to say I think everyone will hopefully have had a chance to share now. again, we're not rushing anyone, but also trying to ensure that we are balancing the virtual screen time with time in nature. Very much a foundational priority for CHIP is to not just talk the talk, but to walk the walk. I want to open it up again to anyone who has more to share, and I'll stay together with you and keep the room open. But my idea about Vanessa, a question that you posed about 30 minutes ago about where to start, I think from my experience, it's about connecting with people so that you don't get lost. Sometimes if it's a large group and you may not have met anyone yet, or maybe you write one person and they don't write back. But what I would suggest is at least one person, try and connect within CHIP, try and be sure to hold CHIP accountable to being inclusive and diverse and representative, staying true to our unified foundation of children and planet, and to make that possible by taking ownership and leadership yourselves, because ultimately co-creating and doing it from a space of love and trust, I think, is where we can actually heal ourselves and feel that this is a true and great space for us, but then also to see that together we can do something that is real, that is positive, that helps the children and the planet. So again, to open it up, but also just to welcome, if you're feeling lost or like you need someone to connect with, feel free to reach out to me or someone who shared something that really resonates with you today.
Thank you, Nathan, for holding the space.
Thank
it
you
was lovely.
very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, just one thing is, as I taught, is like micro politics. You know, it's within us, around us, and then it's from the bottom to the top, not inverse. That's a solution. I have been thinking about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm gonna log off and see you guys on the platform.
Thank you, Liliane.
Thank you.
And thank you all. Anyone else with last thoughts to share?
Thank you, Nathan. You're an excellent facilitator. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It's all of us together. So thank you too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rosvita. So I think I'll go ahead and close it, but looking forward to reconnecting soon. Tuko pamoja. That's Swahili for we are together.